Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Replay Mega Man Battle 2 for the 380 sub special. In the last part, we started off the post-game and did a massive chip grind throughout the internet, grabbing a majority of the ones we were missing. And now we're in Undernet 6 where we have a new enemy here. This is the Can Devil 2. They're Can Devils, but faster, stronger. I think they might regenerate HP faster than Can Devil ones, but don't quote me on that. They do have a new battle chip for us in Candle 2, but we're not going to grab that for a moment or two because I just didn't get a good chip loadout here. Admittedly, that is where the deck-based mechanics for Battle can fall short in some regards, same with Star Force. If you just don't get the right setup at the start of a battle, you might not walk away with the battle card you want, and admittedly, that's where the sub-chip Locate enemy can also come in handy. In the case you faced an enemy and you weren't happy with the loadout, you didn't get the battle chip you want, you can just use one of those. The big problem is getting those a lot is very money-intensive in-game, because 10,000 Zenny isn't as much as it used to be at this point in the game, because at this point enemies are frequently dropping between 5 and 600 Zenny, but that's still a loadout. That's still enough where it's like, ah, damn it, now I have to go grind that out. Ah, man. Though, admittedly as well, later Battle Networks and Star Forces do actually have better ways around beating enemies in a fast way without using battle chips in a lot of cases, so you might still get higher ranks. Again, it's one of those things where as the series evolved, they got better about having a high enough skill ceiling that you could very easily just overpower the enemy, even if you don't get a good layout for your battle chips. With that said, I do think at points, in particular in the Battle Network portion of the series in particular, the skill ceiling is high, but so is the execution they want out of you by the end game in some cases. More so in like BN 5 and 6 than 1 through 4 at least. So over Undernet 6, there's actually another pathway back here to Undernet 5 to allow you to access the 2 mystery data on this platform, but also find Shadow Man V2 finally. I want to say if you don't go out of the way to explore this end of the Undernet during the main story, this is probably the biggest gap between when you fight a Navi and when you can find their V2. And in some regards that's a shame because I really do like the Shadow Man chip line, but at the same time, waiting this long means you're probably going to have a much better loadout for him. So he's going to be nowhere near as threatening as he could be if you came here as early as you could. On top of the fact, coming here as early as you can, depending on what your loadout's looking like on the chip side, you're probably not going to do too well against the random enemies around here, honestly. Also, just to mention it in both videos, most of the footage in this video was recorded for this video specifically, but the first 10 or so minutes are from the same recording sessions that ended the last part. And keep in mind on the game clock as you go, because it's getting pretty trustworthy on how long the game's been going on at this point. But there's also some lies in that, because by and large, last part was a lot more, many more recording sessions edited down, but some of the recording sessions I did for this part were about as long, just had to be edited down to less time because I was looking for like 1 or 2 specific fights over and over again. Alright, so the Shadow Man chip's pretty simple. Shadow Man shows up in place of you, jumps up in the air, and throws, I believe, 3 to 4 shurikens at the enemy, each doing the as-displayed damage number. It's honestly one of my favorite Navi chips in the game because it really doesn't physically miss, basically ever. It homes in directly onto the panel of the nearest opponent, and since it's fired from mid-air, it doesn't get interrupted by anything. The only things that really can miss with it are if you hit the enemy in the middle of invincibility frames in the case of boss fights, and in the case the enemy has Stone Body active, really. It's easily one of my favorite Navi chips in the game. Reg up 2 right there. If you've been playing along with this LP, your regular memory should currently be at 48 out of 50 after that. There's only 2 left in the game to get. Which, if you actually look at the math, you'll notice that means you can't basically ever put a high-level Navi chip as your regular chip, which is kinda sad, but I get why. 2 new enemies here. We got a Yurt and a Magmacker. They are both just stronger and faster variants of their earlier viruses. Yurts are the bigger threat there because of the combo potential they have with basically any virus in the game. So let's just throw myself at it to kill it. By the way, we're about to do a lot of jump cutting around in Undernet 6 to get the chips I'm missing in here. So the security cube I opened a moment ago, you do need the S license we got last time to open that. And that's actually why I went out of my way to get that last time, because that means I could then explore the entirety of the Undernet, more or less uninterrupted. So here we got a bit of a unique one. This is a returning virus from BN1. This is Mole. This is this series' incarnation of Rush. 10 HP, which doesn't seem like a lot, But it has, I believe, a unique variant of Stone Body where anything you hit it with will only do 1 damage. It's called Mole because you fight it like Whack-A-Mole. You shoot it once, it goes down, then 3 holes pop up, it'll then randomly pop out of one of them. Repeat ad nauseum, shooting it one at a time until it dies. If you miss once, it flees. So in order to get its battle chip, you need to get it all 10 times, which sounds easy in concept. But by the latter half of its HP, it does move pretty quickly, so don't be surprised if you mess this up. I made an entire joke out of this in the previous LP, where I was at this for a while fighting this particular virus. Thankfully, I got it on like my second try here. And for beating it, no matter what, you get Pop-Up D. It's sort of a variant on the Invisalign, where Mega Man hides in a hole and will peek out every time you do an attack. So I guess in some regards, it's actually more comparable to Stone Body, but I don't tend to use it a lot. Same with Mag Bomb too. But that's actually all the viruses we need to actually get chips from here in Undernet 6. Undernet 6 is joyfully brief compared to some of the other areas, unlike Undernet 7. Undernet 7 here is the deepest reaches of the Undernet in this particular game, barring the post-game area. This is easily one of the most dangerous areas in the game, and for good reason, it takes a while to get to it too. But also, there's security cubes we can't open here yet. In fact, that one kind of spoils the big thing. There are still 2 Net Battler licenses we still have to get, the SS and the SSS license. We'll be getting those later this very video. First up, new enemy around here is Void. We actually already have the battle chip from these things thanks to the chip trader, which is Black Hole. They are just more aggressive, faster, and stronger nulls. Like the color scheme on them, though. In retrospect, they actually kind of remind me of Kamen Rider Revice, which is that's a series I need to actively try and finish. But I have been bad about watching things the past year or so. On the whole, the Voids are probably the kindest enemy you're going to find in this area, which is kind of scary in its own regard. This cube requires the SS license, so we're not progressing to the latter half of this area until we get those 2 licenses. But over here we got a green mystery data, and I recommend you either save or have some good electric chips in your folder for what's about to happen, because there's one more plot Navi that we still haven't fought in the V2 of. It's time for Freeze Man. Now, I hesitated there because I was trying to think if I wanted to actually just bring back in Toadman and try to kill this guy very quickly, but I was like, no, let's actually give him a chance to showcase what he does. I mentioned most of his attacks last time, the wind that he blows when you hit the thing, his own version of Wood Tower, being able to make icicles fall and all that, but it's good to actively see it in action, especially because I think in V2 Beyond he starts being able to do especially multiple stalactites falling on you in a row, which can be a little dangerous. So Freeze Man here is actually my end goal for this trip to the Undernet overall. I am going to spend a little time here to try and get some other battle chips. But the main reason I'm here is to fight him so that when I jack back in, both him and Shadow Man will be available for their V3 fights. Again, I think I mentioned this earlier in the LP. I'm always a little iffy in my memory on which battle networks allow you to refight the V3 of a Navi before or after jacking out. Because I swear some of them allow you to just fight them immediately after the fact. But it really does depend on the game. In fact, I might even be thinking of Star Force now that I think about it, potentially. Or I've just invented that entirely, which you know what, I wouldn't be surprised about. Next new enemy is Dominerd 3s. Dominerd 3s suck. They almost always have Get In 1, and they will use it more or less after 1 or 2 failed attacks on you. And if you're in a fight with 2 of them, they can just both spam it in a row to completely destroy every panel on the field except the one you're on. And since they can move over pits, that sucks. So try to take them out as soon as you can, if not take them out first. With that said, I do need their battle chip, of course. In fact, I need a very specific code of it for some program advanced shenanigans. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be getting that code on this trip to the Undernet just because luck wasn't there for me. And I'll talk about the best way to actively get it when I actually get it in about 15, 20 minutes, somewhere about there. With that said, immediately after this fight, we are going to take a couple of steps and then just start going from battle to battle, getting battle chips I know I can and can easily get right now. Admittedly, you actually would want to jack out at this point, though, if you're going for battle chips all at once. Because there's one battle in this area that we'll be talking about down the line that currently has a rarity of about 4%, but after you jack back out and come back in when Freeze Man V3 is around, it jumps up 2% in rarity. I guess in commonality, it becomes a 6%-ish. First up for chip gathering is the Puppies. They have the Bubble Spreader chip, which is just the same as Heat Spread, only it's water elemental, so a 3x3 water attack. Next up, we got another new virus, Megaman W's. These are where the Megalians start to get really annoying because they start moving pretty quickly and they get to the point where their auras are at 80 plus HP, which is just kind of hard to deal with. With that said, still easy to kill with Guardian, because something you haven't been able to see until just then. Whenever you hit a Megalian with the Guardian, like physically, that still counts for damage, and it can easily take out the heads. Next up, before I leave the area, I'm actually going to come over here to Undersquare and buy out as much of their HP memories as I can. The 50,000 Zenny you can get in a single green mystery data in Undernet 5 is a very good way to do that. By the way, I should mention, I think you can only have one of those per jack-in, and usually the green mystery data in that area are either viruses, 100 Zenny, or 50,000. With that said, now that I got a few more HP memories, it's finally time. It's time for us to enter the post-game area. You could not enter this portal until beating the game, and for good reason. This is where we saw base in the ending. I love the music for this place. It's so good. It's such a good version of the main Battle Network theme. If you look at the background, it might look a little weird. Welcome to the World 3 area. You know, just a little bit scary. The viruses around here do not mess around, especially Protectos. Protectos are technically counted as bosses, and they work like Navi Ghosts. They are always in set locations here on the first visit to the World 3 areas. The way their attack works, they count down from 10, and if that hits 0, a field-wide explosion happens that does mass damage. They're always in set setups, and for good reason. You need to take them all out in one shot. If you don't, they heal to max HP no matter what. By and large, the best way to do that for a majority of the World 3 area is by using the Big Bomb Program Advance. But here with Protecto 1s, at least, Proto Man 3 is also a good option. We're going to be dealing with several of them throughout this area, so get used to them. With that said, I'm not cutting out any of their future fights, I'm just speeding them up, because they are, at the end of the day, a lot of the same thing. Enemy-wise, here in World 3 Area 1 at least, when it comes to old enemies, you're going to be running into B-Tank 3s, Metar 3s, Sparknoids, Spooky 3s, if memory serves, Swordy 3s, a lot of pretty powerful enemies, but arguably the worst and most annoying ones are in fact the unique ones. But we'll talk more about those in a few moments, because I actually don't run into the most annoying variants of them until very late this video. Oh hey, we're at 200 battle chips even, nice! This here is a very good example of what I meant earlier, and that in case you don't have Big Bomb, Proto Man V3 is all you're going to need at least here in World 3 Area 1. But now we're coming up on some kind of interesting notes. First off, up here is a net merchant. This net merchant sells some interesting chips in that these are all of the retro chips you can get from the retro trader in the game. This is what I was talking about earlier, in that there's a way to get these that's not necessarily using it. There's also the Godstone chip, which is exclusive to here. Now, I think I may have actually stated earlier in the LP, they cost like 100,000 to get. If I did say that, I want to apologize, because I was actually thinking of the last time I played this game and got 100%, wherein I needed over 100,000 Zenny to get them all. Because at that point in time, I didn't understand how to do link cable shenanigans on not real hardware, whereas now I do, so we might take care of that. Here, though, we got another new enemy. This is the Shadow 3s. These things are pretty deadly in that they do about 200 damage with any of their attacks, so they're just kind of rough to deal with no matter what. That's probably the biggest thing about the enemies here in the World 3 area. If they're not fast, they hit like a truck, and that's arguably worse. If you have just the standard S license, though, you can open up this cube, and there's another warp here. We've been seeing this warp for a while, because this is the one all the way back in not World 3, in Den Area 1. And now we can open up this purple mystery data that's been taunting us since part 1, the army data. Now, I don't check the army data's flavor text, nor do I investigate the thing that needs it before getting it. But the short of it is, you need this in order to get either the SS or the SSS licenses done. So, now that we have that, we can go max out our licenses. Before we do that, though, I want to come up here and at least explore as much of this area as I can on top of getting a battleship along the way. Now, my recommendation at this point, if you're not saving Zenny for the retro chips, which you probably should anyway if you're going for 100%, because, duh, whatever leftover money you have, go buy at least 3 or 4 locate enemies, especially if it's the first time around and you don't want to spend time just looking for viruses over and over again. Go get several full energies because the enemies around here do enough damage that it's worth having because you can't jack out of this area for reasons. And go get at least 5 unlockers because there's at least enough purple mystery data coming up that you might want to have one ready so you don't have to backtrack to that one mystery data in particular, because I've had several times I've had to do that throughout the rest of these games in the post-game areas, which kind of gets rough to do by the end of the series. Especially how large some of the post-game areas can get in some cases. Here we got a new virus though. This is Skutzer, one of the several Scuttle virus types. These are all the little ads that the life virus could spawn in the final boss of MMBN1. And by and large, there are 5 variants of them, more than basically any virus in the game, but they all tend to follow the same sort of deal. You can encounter 4 of the 5 as early as this area, but they all only have one battle chip, which is that life aura. The biggest difference between them is their elemental attack. Greens fire a wood tower. Reds fire essentially a hardheads attack that will crack a panel and light it on fire, which is very damaging. Blues will summon an ice cube right out of the Iceman fight in BN1 and slide it at you. And yellows will fire a tracking Lek Ball attack. I think they all also have a laser attack, but I think I might be thinking of a different enemy. Getting rid of the life aura is the biggest step because that takes a hard 100 damage to get rid of in one shot, but oh well. I recommend saving before investigating this door for reasons. You who are strong, come forward. The door's opening! This door will only open for you if Mega Man's level on the Mega Man screen is 70 or above, which as someone who's in their 90s, we're good.
Who are you who have disturbed my slumber?
Who's there?
I am Pharaohman, protector of this land. You have trespassed and defiled this sacred place, and you will pay with your lives.
Mega Man, ready? Battle routine set. Execute! Shadow Man's not the only net Navi that escaped being a post-game fight in BN1. Pharaoh Man's back once again. He's kind of tanky this time around. He himself doesn't actually do much in the fight besides patrol the back row, though. Most of the attacks in this fight come out of the 2 coffins he has in front of him at all times. They will move to try to block you off at all angles, so you need to sort of just kind of kite them around until you can find a good place to hit him. The coffins do have most of the attacks, though. They can fire a laser that covers the entire row. They can fire a Raton chip out of them, and that will actually become a stronger Raton that will fire more of them as we fight later variants of Pharaoh Man. They can just drop a huge purple cube on the field, or they can have the wind effect blowing you backwards. Pharaoh Man, his only attack directly is Pharaoh Trap, which spawns a switch on either the, I think, bottom left or top left side of your field. And that has a couple different effects if you step on it. It will spawn a snake out of Snake Man's fight that will just constantly follow you around the field. It'll spawn a Meteor chip that will then fire, I think, a Meteor 9 here in V1, a Meteor 12 in V2, and a Meteor 18 in V3. And it can drop down an Anubis that will just poison your entire field, essentially, until you destroy that actively. This can be a tricky fight just because of how much you have to kite around the coffins, though chips like Big Bomb can come into the save here because you can at least hit him from multiple angles doing that. Be wary all the same.
I am Pharaoh Man, protector of this land. Even should I die, my spirit will serve in my place.
Wow, he was tough. I hope there's no more like him further on. What is this place anyway? Lan, read the name of the area. Come on, man. With Pharaoh Man destroyed, that's actually as much as I want to do here in the World 3 area for now. We'll be back here later this video, don't get me wrong, but I have other things I want to get done at the internet at large, and most of those involve the army data we just got done. So now it's time for us to go access the final 2 license tests. These are problems to an extent. Ugh. I'm the SS license test examiner. You came to take the test? There are 2 problems. If you pass, I'll give you an SS license. Ready? For the first problem, you will perform a mission. Influenced by gospel, 4 Navis have formed a gang called the Black Navis. There are only 4 members, but each one is notorious. If they're not eliminated now while they're small, They may grow into a major criminal organization. You will be the agent of the Black Navy's destruction. The members of the Black Navies are spread about. They all are black and look very mean.
That could be phrased better.
One member is often spotted in the Yumland area. This is problem 1. Shall I repeat it? That's okay. Very well. Good luck. So now we need to go about the internet taking out essentially just a smaller net mafia. The first one is over here in Yumland 2, about halfway through the area on the way towards Yum Square, just directly. Trust me, if you've been paying attention, you'll spot him. I recommend saving before each one of these fights, though, because these can be kind of rough. Give me all your zennies and chips if you want to live. You're one of the Black Navies, aren't you? That's right, I'm number 4 of the Black Navies. Are you an official or something? Where are the rest of your members? Let me tell you, number 3's in Netopia. Unfortunately, you won't be seeing him. 'Cause you'll get deleted right here. Each one of the 4 Black Navies are actively themed around specific elements. This one in particular is themed around electricity, which is my worst enemy. But thankfully, if just some good use of Proto Man V3 can go a long way here, same with certain program advances. And the moment you've destroyed them, they're destroyed. Now you can just go elsewhere. Along the way, though, because I'm actually using the warps in front of Land's computer to get to the next 3 Black Navies, I realized I haven't bought Spreader Q yet from that net merchant back in ACDC 1. So now it's time for us to finally do a program advance I've had most of for a while. By using the 5 Spreader chips in alphabetical order, you get Mega Burst instead of Hyper Burst. Oh, I'm sorry, I actually just had to look something up. It's called the Mega Death Burst, apparently. It's essentially the same as Hyper Burst, it just lasts longer and therefore does more damage. If there's any of the 5 chip program advances that I can say is worth it, it's probably this one just because of its range, but I still don't recommend them. Alright, so the next Black Navi is here in Netopia 2. Just go down this path and he's right there. Again, I recommend saving. Hey kiddo, can you give me all your money? I've got some money problems, see? Hey, I'll have to hurt you if you say no, babe. Are you Black Navi number 3? How'd you know my name? Are you the Navi who beat number 4? We're number 2 and 1. I see. So you must be our enemy then. Number 2 is in the Undernet. But you won't be meeting him, honey. Because your life as a Navi ends here. You're a cute little thing, but I don't have any choice. I'll make sure your deletion's painless. This particular one is themed around fire viruses and can also be very annoying because of how Flamey 3s work. With that said, this is actually a good opportunity to show off that Flamey 3s are still very susceptible to Guardian, in that they will actively hit it on the way down, which is honestly kind of funny. So our 3rd Black Navi is in Undernet 6, but along the way, because I was using Undercoder to get there, I did buy the next HP memory, so there's only 1 HP memory left in the game. But while I'm here, I'm going to check if I get another 50,000 Zenny. Damn it. There's some more viruses we haven't fought here yet. On top of that, Shadowman V3's around here now, so it's time to pick up some chips around here. First off, we got Popper 2s. Oh boy. Bad memories with this virus type, not so much for this chip, but 1 and BN1 for those who know the one. Popper 2s do the same thing Popper 1s do. They stick in their column, will pop down, fire some wood towers, then pop back up. That means they have a very small window where you can actively hit them. But if you take advantage of certain program advances, getting S ranks against them for their battle chips in this game is a lot easier than it was back in BN1. Do I get one this time? I don't think so. I actually think I have to cut out to another fight to get that, but oh well. Also, while a majority of the battles here in Undernet 5 do have grass panels, I don't think Popper 2s get the full benefits of healing at all times because they're up in the air for the most part, but I might be wrong on that. I usually focus on trying to kill them in one shot anyway. With that said, time for the Shadow Man spam. This fight can be kind of rough, especially because he actively does gain a new attack in this form, but he only does it towards the latter 1/3 of his health, I believe. It's called a Muramasa. Muramasa, he teleports in front of you and then does a sword swing. With that said, that sword swing can be a potential instant kill, because the way Muramasa works is that its damage is equal to the amount of HP missing from his maximum, and you can get that as a battle chip. You can get this chip anywhere from ranks 9 to S, so it's pretty likely to get, in some cases it's actually kind of annoying because I've had playthroughs of this where I get S ranks and I get only Muramasas for a while and no Shadowman V3s and vice versa. So in that regard, that can be kind of annoying when it comes to 3 chip having V3s. And since Muramoto's O-code, it works very well with the Guardian I got. So I'm honestly considering right now actually making a different folder from the one I was already planning for Endgame, where instead of it being potentially S and B code, it's S and O code, and I think that actually might work out pretty well. I'll have to plan about that, though. With that said, it's time for us to get the other Shadow Man chips, which are all also pretty good. If there's any Navi chip I recommend spamming just the level 3 of up to its max, I would actually recommend Shadow Man V3. There are much worse chips for that. Like that and Proto Man 3 are arguably some of the best for that overall. Now it's time for us to go after the Popper 2's battle chip. And while I don't have as many problems with this as I do, say, Drop Down S back in Battle Network 1, I have heard trouble with people getting this particular battle chip, but Gator and another program advance that's B-coded can do pretty well. Leaf Shield is okay. I don't tend to use it, but if memory serves, the way it works is you put out the shield, and if you get hit while the shield's out, you, instead of take damage, you recover that much HP instead. So against certain fights, it can be pretty good. I just don't tend to use the shield type chips unless I absolutely have to. I'm more focused on doing the damage. So the Black Navi is right over here. Hey, Blue Dude, I've heard about you. You're going around deleting all my buddies. That means you're... That's right, I'm Black Navi number 2. Don't think I'm just like 3 or 4. Me and number 1 in Koto area are better than the rest. We're especially strong. We're gonna expand the Black Navis around the world into a net crime organization bigger than World 3 and Gospel. No way I'll lose it to someone like you. You better be ready. This particular one is wood themed, and honestly, it's probably one of the easiest in the set, as it's viruses you should be well used to dealing with by now. It's kind of an annoying setup because of where the snapper is versus where the puffballs will move on top of the potential area grab shenanigans. But don't worry too much about it. So, the next one's sort of in Koto area. It's an under Koto, which is technically Koto Area 2, yes, but that is decisively labeled enough that I got stuck looking for it for a little bit. Just go over towards Net Merchant, and there they are. Save on up and prepare for a fight.
Hello, I heard the story from number 2. I'm number 1, the leader, the Black Navis. I can't believe that all my followers got deleted, but I'm not too upset about it. In fact, I'm pleased to see how talented you are. Let's conquer the net together. The Black Navis would be unbeatable if you joined us. Of course, I'll give you a high rank.
I'll never take the side of evil.
Ah, it's a pity. Because it means you're standing in my way. I can't just leave dangerous things lying around, no matter how small they might be.
Alright, this one actually does have a new enemy, one of the few appearances in the game of the virus Poofy. It's a puffy but extraordinarily fast with how fast its bubble bounces back and forth. Also one of the few other appearances of Null and Voids. We haven't seen one of them since I think the time we fought that Gospel Navi towards the end of the Freeze Man scenario. Which, I realize now saying that out loud, wasn't that many videos ago. But that was over 15 hours plus of gameplay ago, so it feels like longer than it probably looks. And with that, we're now good to head back to the test area and take on the next portion of the SS exam. Make sure you save before this, especially, by the way. Congratulations! Nice work. Now for problem 2. Problem 2 is a survival battle. To pass, delete 20 viruses that appear in a row. You cannot recover HP during battle, so be careful. I'll replenish your HP before and after the problem. So, are you ready? Yes, I unfortunately am. This is a flavor of post-game event I'm not too fond of in the Battle Networks. That happens in a couple of their post-games. They just throw you into marathon battles of 20 plus viruses, and I'm not the biggest fan. There are some new viruses peppered in, but for the most part, it's just hard setups of older viruses. I think I wouldn't mind these if you got a checkpoint here and there, or instead of getting healing between every battle, they healed you every, 10, and maybe that 10th battle is also technically sort of a boss fight type one. It's just, I've never been a fan of these kind of marathon type things for this particular gameplay setup, at least. New enemy along the way, though, is a Ratty 3. It's a Ratty 1 and a Ratty 2, but faster and stronger, and they're actually kind of dangerous. Because when you piss these ones off, the speed at which they move and the rate at which they fire is kind of ridiculous, even when there's just one of them. You really should, in case you're against any Ratty 3s, just try to take them out in such a way where they all die at once. With that said, I can't get it now, of course, because this is the 20-fight marathon. We are eventually going to need to get their battleship for 2 program advances, which I'm not looking forward to recording that. Oh boy. While last part was about the equivalent of 10 hours-ish of game, plus minus a couple just because of saving, resetting, and editing out, edited down to 1 hour, this part is particularly about 7 to 8 hours, not counting software resets. And admittedly, doing these license tests was probably a good hour, 50 minutes of that alone. It's kind of long. Another new battle here at the Flannel Battle is a blue gun. It's a lava gun, only it fires a water-type projectile, and it's slightly stronger. With that said, its HP still isn't too much to worry about, so if you can hit it with like a Gator, Life Sword 2, anything really, and it'll go down pretty quickly. Honestly, the most annoying thing about this particular virus setup is probably the Spooky, because if you don't take that out as fast as you can, it's gonna heal up for high HPs on the other 2 viruses, as I just stupidly fell into that trap there. With that said, if you got him, this is also a prime candidate battle for just using Guardian. In fact, in general, through the multi-virus marathons they throw at you in these post games when and if they happen. If Guardian's in the game, it's a big helper, because that 200 damage on anything and can pierce shields is kind of ridiculous. Well, pierce stone body at least. Guardian, actually, I should note this. Guardian cannot pierce through auras or barriers, at least. I think you can only get through, I want to say, invincibility frames, invisibility, and stone body. Auras, it can destroy them, it just can't get through them. Superb, you passed the test with flying colors. And there's the SS license. I'll give you this too as a bonus. And the second to last reg up in the game. And now we can immediately go into the next one, but I recommend saving first just to lock that in. I'm the SSS license test examiner. You came to take the test, there are 2 problems. If you pass, I'll give you an SSS license. Ready? Problem 1 tests your reasoning ability as a net battler. You will need this ability in real missions to find answers from minor clues. The test consists of the following. Find and net battle a person. The person is a character called the Navi Master, set to control all the world's navies. I will provide you 1 hint. A signboard that smells of sea air. Based on this hint, you must deduce where to proceed next. If your deduction is correct, you'll receive a new hint. Following that hint will ultimately lead you to the goal of this test, the Navi Master. This is problem 1. Shall I repeat it? That's okay. So, this is one of those tests where you actively cannot skip to the ending. I believe if you go directly to where the Navi Master is, you cannot battle them until you've found all the hints. With that said, this clue hunt is just a knowledge test to remember where you've been in the game. For instance, a sign that smells of sea air would be here in front of the Metroline station. There's writing. Great jug beyond the 4 cedars. So cedars would probably indicate Okuden Valley, and the great jug in this case, if you think hard enough, is the dam itself. So look for 4 cedars here at the end, and there's this guy. You're here to take the SSS license test, is that right? This is my passphrase. Big Bird Brain. Alright, so we haven't seen too many birds actively throughout the game, but we've seen something that's often paired with a bird when thinking about Superman, an airplane. We need to go investigate the airplane's core computer. And this actually works out because there's something else I need to do here in this airplane. I had a feeling you might come back. Will you trade your Shadow Man trilogy chips for my anti-damage S? Absolutely. Alright, thanks, now I can go home. Actually, my brother and I had a big fight before I left. Now I can make amends with these chips. It's a costly trade, but anti-damage S is needed for 100% obviously to begin with. But it's also part of one of the best program advances in the game, so it's worth it. Just get more Shadow Man chips, I'll do that off screen. Something's written here. The play is overlooking different cultures. In fact, by the end of this video, I have 2 Shadow Man 3s in a separate folder, ready for more endgame shenanigans now that I have anti-damage. So the Watchtower here we're looking for at looking over different cultures is pretty straightforward. We're going towards where we fought Princess Pride several parts back. You're an SSS licensed test applicant, right? Here's my keyword. One of the coffins of things cast away from humans. This one's actually very close by. We're looking for one of the dumpsters in the underground in the main portion of Netopia Town. In particular, from this entrance, it's the 3rd one. Something's scribbled. Kingdom in Cyberforest, Object in Center of Treasury. This one took me a while to figure out in my first playthrough because I never really equate Yumland with forests. We need to go to the exact location we picked up the change.batch before we got our initial style change. I think that was part 3 we did that in. A little bit of a trek from all the way there in Netopia, but this is essentially one of the final laps around the world we're going to be doing in the game anyway, so it kind of balances out. You must be an examinee for the SSS license. Here's my keyword, something that plays a sound. That's beyond vague, isn't it? This one took me a while as well, just because there's so many things that can fit the criteria, but I'll just tell you, you need to go jack into Male's piano that opened up, I think, by the time we got home from Netopia? And at that point, I think we need to check the top left corner overall of the area, this navy. You must be taking the SSS license exam. Here's my keyword. My natural parents. Got it? So this particular hint only makes sense if you're Lan Hikari, because we need to head over and talk to our dad. I guess in that regard, who is barging into Male's house to do this exam otherwise, so maybe they personalize this at this point. Lan, Megaman, I'm proud of you both for coming this far. I knew this was right. Come on out, Navi Master. We challenge you to a net battle. You needn't call so loudly. Navi Master's already here. Where? Lan, you don't suppose... Well done, Mega Man. You figured it out. Yes, I, your father, am the Navi Master. I'm gathering lots of data on Navis for my research. Now face me, Lan. Oh, so that's it. But if I don't beat Dad, we won't pass the test. Okay, Mega Man, let's show Dad what we can do. Right. Come and get it. So our dad doesn't throw a new net navi at us. Instead, he's throwing the version 2 of every human-operated, non-gospel affiliated net navi we've fought throughout the game. So Gutsman, Toadman, Gateman, Thunderman, Protoman, all of them. This can be a marathon, but this is the kind of marathon I like, because while you run low on resources by the end, you're so used to fighting these when getting battleships anyway. I actually like this setup a lot. In some regards, this is actually closer to a more traditional boss rush than the one we did against the Gospel Navies towards the end of that particular computer and the main story finale. Takes a while, yes, but I think there are harder boss rushes in the series. In fact, I think there's a harder enemy rush even coming up. Lan, Mega Man, you've improved. I'm sure you'll pass. So now with that, we can head back down to the test room, jack on in, and we can tackle the final of the license problems. With that said, make sure your folder is as optimized as you can make it, and that you have some sword chips around, because it's going to be another virus brawl, and easily the longest one of those in the game. Congratulations, nice work. Now for problem 2. Problem 2 is a survival battle. To pass, delete 30 viruses that appear in a row. You can now recover HP during battle, so be careful. I'll replenish your HP before and after the problem. So are you ready? Unfortunately. You thought the 20 battle we did about not even 10 minutes ago was bad? 30 virus fights in a row against basically every virus you've fought in the game up to this point. The only thing really excluded from this is certain World 3 area viruses. This can be rough, no matter which style you are, which element you are. There's going to be things that you are weak against here, but also things you're strong against. My best recommendation, Guardian, Protoman 3 comes into clutch here. Shadowman 3 can also be pretty good here. Anything that pierces shields, like the Wrecker chips, can be really good. Nightman, for instance. It's a marathon. It's hard, but it is doable. The biggest thing is try to take as many hits later on as you can if you have to. Avoiding damage early on makes all the middle fights much easier. With that said, we have a new enemy here. This is the Yart. This is the third and final of the Yart enemy line. Stronger, faster, can combo you in pretty good with certain other viruses. These ones can be rough, but thankfully they lined up pretty good there with Protoman. And back to the marathon we go. I think marathon fights do have a place in RPGs, especially in cases like a tournament scenario, like in the Tales games. but I'm not the biggest fan of when they do them in Battle Network, one that's longer than like 10 fights, because I think the luck of the draw starts to come in so much if you take too many hits and all that. I mean, I guess the other day you could just build a better deck, for instance, like put more recovery chips in, but it's just never really clicked with me in that regard. To the point where they kind of just stopped doing this after a certain point, at least in this traditional method we see here in the later games, and I don't think Star Force is basically anything like this directly, from memory, at least. Final new enemy in this set is in the 30th battle. It is Yellowgon, the final of the Lavagon enemy types. It's Electric Elemental, and that's about it. Notably, because you only fight blue and yellow Gons here in these marathons, they do not have battle chips to their name. Only the Lavagon does. Which, you know what, I'll take that. That's nice and easy. If anything in this fight, the more annoying thing is the fact there's 2 hard head 3s you have to contend with. Something that can come into good play here is 2 area grabs or panel grabs if you got them, and then get in front of them with Nightman and then swing it. Straight up to the point though, if you can finish this in the 20 virus battle we did a little bit ago, you can finish the rest of this game combat-wise, no problem. There's still the luck of the draw with getting chips and all that, yes. But nothing else that remains in the game is this resource-intensive or tense when it comes to taking hits, because you're not really doing marathons besides this. You can run away from a lot of the fights in the World 3 area after like 1 or 2 tries, for instance, and escape chips can help with that. Superb! You passed the test with flying colors. And there's our license. I'll give you this too as a bonus, and that's our final reg up. If you've done everything I have throughout the LP, you're now a top-ranked City Net Battler, and if you check your folder, you should have a regular memory of 50, maxing that out. For now, we're back in Okuden because it's finally time to take care of these things. Now, I've talked about the retro chip traders by and large at the LP. You connect Battle Network 1 via a link cable, and you can send one of any chip in the game from there over to Battle Network 2, and it'll be randomly converted into one of 6 retro chips that are usually representative of viruses or chip lines that aren't present here in BN2. If you don't have a link cable or Battle Network 1, you can just buy these chips from the net merchant over in World 3 Area 1. I'm not sure if you can get duplicates doing this, like if you can get 2 Tritons using the 4 retro chip traders across the game. But no matter what, you will have to buy at least 2 of them. I think you're not meant to get duplicates, but you might be able to doing this, which can kind of suck. And also, if you're wondering why the footage paused there, it's because I actively do have a second window booted up with a copy of BN1 that I'm connecting via MGBA's link capability to send stuff over. Nowadays, there are much better ways to do this. Because the Legacy Collection, for instance, has its own way of doing this via online trading on top of, I think, some card stuff that's technically in there. And the Wii U Virtual Console, I believe you get these the moment you access the network menu alongside certain other chips. It's a neat incentive to have played Battle Network 1 before this, in the case you're playing it on the GBA. It's just kind of annoying nowadays, though, to work with, I won't lie. In a way, it's kind of like the time travel machine in Pokemon Gen 2, original Gen 2, to send over from Red, Blue, and Yellow. And I am glad you can send to any chip, because if you specifically needed the chips that they turn into, that would kind of suck. Now, I should note, I am using an old save file I had from the last time I 100%ed Battle Network 1 before the LP I did of Operate Star Force, which was a playthrough in like 2018. I had to dig around on my college laptop to get that. So in that regard, I had that prepared, but oh well. So now we're back in Undernet 7 because it's time for us to talk about the battle chips around here, starting with getting Freezeman's 2 later battle chips. Freezeman V3 can be kind of rough just because he's so tanky, but again, if you have some Thunder Elemental chips, you don't have to worry about much here, especially in the case you have like Elec plus 40, Navi plus 20, Attack plus 30, Attack plus 20. You can just melt Freezeman's HP so quickly with Toadman. It's ridiculous. Also, in case I haven't mentioned it yet, green mystery datas that are viruses, they can, in fact, be Navi fights. In fact, it happens to me twice in a row. That has happened to me a couple times, but it's always funny when it happens. Undernet 7 is probably my least favorite map in this particular game from memory. Not for the actual navigation, just because it has one of those viruses that is just so rare to find. You need very specific setups to get the chips from. I'd argue this map is my, I forget which internet area it is that had the Popper 3s with drop-down asks back in Battle Network 1, but it's that map for me in this game. Every game has one of those, and this is the one for me. But that said, now that we have the licenses, we can actually get the rest of the mystery data here in Undernet 7. Up here's a particular interesting one. In this PMD is Anti-Sword H. It's another anti-chip. The moment an enemy tries to use a sword-type attack of any kind on you, they get punished. This one actually does pair pretty well with the Shadow Chip line, because the Shadow Chips make it so you can only be damaged by sword, so having a counter for that's nice. But I don't tend to use it too much. It's probably better suited in multiplayer in the long run anyway. Here we have the final of the Megalian viruses, Megalian-E's. They have a 100 strength electric type aura, which kind of sucks. But they are in control of the final of the aura type chips, so you're gonna need that. I don't know why. Out of all the enemies in the early games, especially, Megalians have always kind of scared me. I think it is because of their speed partnered with their damage output, because getting hit with just their face can easily do over 150 damage, even on the earlier variants, so they're just a threat despite their very dumb-looking appearance. On top of the fact, I'll always remember them from the manga, because of their appearance during the Little Pharaoh Man mini-arc that sort of was the transition point from the BN1 to BN2 arc, or at least the conclusion of it. I think I've talked about it before, but I love the Battle Network manga. It was the first manga I ever read, and I have a pretty good place in my heart for it, and I love the art. And they even did a little, like, sequel chapter to it for, like, the anniversary that shows, like, Lan and crew all grown up and all that, tying a little bit into the ending of 6. It's real neat. And I'm wondering, because of how well the Battle Network Legacy Collection sold, if maybe they might use any ideas from that in a potential new game. Although, I think I've said it before, if the Legacy Collection, for Battle Network in particular, especially Star Force, spawns anything, I don't want it to be a Battle Network 7 or a Star Force 4, even though I do like the ideas from the canceled Star Force 4. I would rather they just do kind of the Mega Man Zero of this timeline, where if this is the classic and Star Force is the X, I want to see what the Zero timeline placement is, mechanically, for this, because I think there's more to do in there. This blue mystery data behind both the cubes is Recover 300R, the strongest main recovery chip in the game, and it's also part of a program advance. And there's one more mystery data left to get, and it's kind of underwhelming, I will not lie. I'm mostly assuming it's here in the case you want to use it for a particular code folder more than anything, and not for nothing, it's a good chip to have with that code. I just think it's a little underwhelming to be a purple mystery data all the way in the deepest reaches of the Undernet, I guess is the way I want to phrase it, because I don't remember this being used in any chip trades off the top of my head. And here we have a Silver Fist L. Neat. And now I jack out before coming back here, because I have enough Zenny now that I can go back to that net merchant in Underkodo and get myself the final HP memory. Bada bing! If you check Mega Man's status screen at this point, he is now level 100. He is maxed out. So now it's time for us to go after battle chips in Undernet 7 again. Here is the Electra L. Nice to have that. Something I should mention, by the way, about the Flying Fists, and this actually kind of ties into what I'm about to get here. Var Sword B. You're meant to get this through a chip trade. The fist chips, like bronze, silver, and gold fist, they all have a button combination if you hold the A button, where if you do that button combination, they actually have a secondary effect. So bronze fist, you press down, down, left, forward, so Hadouken, you do a rocket punch forward. Silver fist, forward, up, back, down, forward. You do a rocket punch on each row. And if you do back, down, forward, forward, back, you do rocket punches in all 3 rows, which can kind of rock. And variable sword works very similarly. So, by the way, here's me using the Nightman to get a Curse Shield P that I need for Program Advance. Variable sword has a flat damage of 160, but if you hold A before letting go, you get to do extra effects with that, because it normally only has the range of a normal sword. By pressing down, down, forward, and forward, so a Hadouken, you do a long sword motion with it. Up, forward, down is a wide sword. Back, down, forward is a fighter sword, which is a longer long sword. It goes the entire enemy panel deep along your row. If you do down, back, up, forward, down, so a circle, you do a life sword. But my favorite one is back, B, forward, B. You do supersonic slashes that are essentially the shockwave slashes that Proto Man uses in his V3 fight. It's ridiculous. You do like 2 or 3 in a row. It's great for virus battles. By the way, here is the final of the Octor enemies. This is the one that's a 6% chance to find. Octovian. Getting this thing's battle chip is, I'd say, the hardest battle chip to find in the game on the whole, because you need to S-rank it to get it no matter what. But the Dominard makes for a rough setup for that. There's a Cannonball S, by the way. I'm going to need that for a program advance. Getting cannonballs from the green mystery data here in Undernet 7 is pretty common. There are two particular setups you can easily do to get the Octovian's battle chip. One is just by using the Big Bomb program advance, which is the way I actually get it. But the way I had planned to get it is 2 panel grabs and Nightman. Because then if I hit the heat ball balloon it sends out while it's on its side of the field while also hitting it with damage, that would be enough to kill. Because again, the way that entire enemy line works really is they shoot the balloon forward, it absorbs damage, then it will, the moment it impacts on terrain of some sort, it'll hit that entire side for that amount of damage. And that can be kind of dangerous. And their battle chip works the same way. I think I said it was like a bomb earlier in the LP. I was wrong about that, sorry. For now, it's time for us to do more program advances. 3 cannonball chips in sequential alphabetical order will become Zeta Ball, which is a very fun thing to say. You turn invisible for 5 seconds and can throw as many wrecking balls as you can get out in that time. Does 300 damage per tick, which honestly is pretty good. If there's any Zeta I really like by this point in the game, this is a good one. Next up, we're going to be doing the Curse program advance, which is the 3 curse chips of the same code in sequential order. This one is just a stronger version of the actual battle chips in question, and I was actually wrong about how this one worked earlier in the LP. I thought it spawned a Dominard that went along the rows, but no, it spawns a Dominard in front of you for a second. The way that's meant to work is that it's a counter-type shield. So an enemy's about to hit you and you use that, they get hit by the Dominard for high damage. Which can be fine, and it probably is honestly kind of good in multiplayer, but I don't care for it myself. Let's see, which one am I doing next? Because my program advance folder, as you can see, is a little bit messy, so getting through things takes a while. I want to say I'm going for the one that I mentioned a moment ago that requires the Recover 300. This one recovers Recover 300R, Holy Panel R, gotten from the Brushmans over in Undernet 4, and any of the 3 roll chips that you've gotten throughout your adventure. I believe it's in the order of Holy Panel, Recover, Roll. This is Big Heart. This summons Roll to do 300 damage to an enemy, and then you get healed to your maximum. So this is easily the best healing method in the game, and being R-coded honestly would fit pretty well in my current main folder with all the G and R codes. And honestly, I'm kind of thinking about doing that alongside the secondary folder. The next program advance that remains is a spin-off of one we already did earlier this video. We did Zeta Ball. You're damn right there's an Omega Ball, and that requires 5 cannonballs in sequential alphabetical order. In this case, I don't have all 5, but I do have a Cannonball Asterisk I got back in the Topia area when we were first there. As usual for the Omega program advances, you're invincible for 10 seconds and can get as many cannonballs out as you can in that time. For random virus battles, this one's not too bad, but again, 5 chips I think is way too much setup for a single program advance, barring boosting the damage of ones that do more damage to begin with. Not worth it to me. There is actually one more we gotta do though, and this one requires the B and S folder I'm currently building. Because we just got Variable Sword B, and that's a part of one. In particular, you're going to need Variable Sword B, Custom Sword B that we got earlier in the LP, and any of the 3 Proto Man Navi chips. This is one of the best in the game. This is, I believe it's meant to be called Dual Hero or Do Hero? 2X Hero, either way. This spawns in Proto Man next to you, and then both Mega Man and Proto Man go completely berserk on the entire enemy field. Every hit of that does 70 damage, and I think it hits enemies up to 10 times plus, so pretty good for damage. And now we're back in the World 3 area because we have some things to do around here. Namely, now that we got the licenses, there's more cubes we can open, but also I want to clean World 3 Area 1 out for what it's worth before we're done tonight. Lava stage there turns every panel in the stage to a lava panel, which you might wonder, why would you do that? That damages you. I believe heat type style changes can stand on lava panels, no problem. I forget if I mentioned that already or not. We're here to also pick up the remaining retro chips from this particular trader alongside Godstone. Godstone works a little bit like Lava Dragon from memory, in that you need a hole in front of you to use it. but when you do, the Godstone will be summoned, and on the panel above and below it, its hands will show up and then hit the ground for mass damage, I want to say? It's powerful, but requires a little too much setup for my tastes. Now, at this point over here on this particular pathway, we can fight Pharaoh Man V2 to get the Pharaoh Man chip line started up. I am actually immediately after this fight more or less going to leave and jack out so I can come back in and then immediately fight Pharaoh Man V3 in the random battles around here. I should note, if you're playing along at this point, you are easily past the worst of the chip grind because we got through most of it last part. And genuinely, the Octovian with Heat Ball, I think, is the worst battle chip to get in this game. For example, I was soft resetting and using Locate Enemy to find that enemy for over an hour and a half of soft resetting easily. On this playthrough to get that chip, it sucks. I believe there's probably a manipulation that speedrunners use to get that more consistently, because Megaman BN 1, 2, and 3 are pretty consistent with their soft reset RNG seeds. So you can just easily, like, always walk over here, soft reset, go over there with that movement, and get it no problem. I know for a fact when I streamed Mega Man Battle Network 3, a Mega Man Battle Network speedrunner came into my chat and helped me get I think it was Wind Asterisk, because you need that for a story event in that game at one point. So look around on YouTube if you're having trouble, because there's probably like pretty consistent manipulations people have for that chip in particular, on top of many of the other problem chips in the series like Drop Down. And also, in case that particular speedrunner is watching this video, hi Smog, hope you're doing well. Been a little bit. Getting back to the game though, the major difference besides HP and damage that Pharaoh Man V2 has going on is that whenever one of his attacks would use the V1 of a battle chip, like Raton or Meteor, it now uses the V2, as I mentioned during the V1 fight. It is kind of funny in retrospect, though, because looking back, Battle Network 1 and 2 especially have a lot of bosses that just stick in the back row, either not moving or moving constantly. And from memory, Battle Network 3 doesn't have that many of those. I think it has one or two, but I don't think it has nearly as many. But I can't wait to do the replay of 3 just to be like, oh no, I was just plain wrong about that, huh? Because I swear I remember the later games having more active bosses. But oh well. Thankfully, I don't need to worry about ranking this fight because this, I think, is at most like an 8 with how long I've taken and the damage I've taken, but oh well. He's done. Pharaoh Man chip is ours. From memory, his battle chip is more or less the same as in Battle Network 1. He spawns a coffin that shoots a laser. I forget if it's in the row directly in front of him or there are 2 rows around him, though. If I had to choose one, it's probably the former, though. So it's powerful, but not to my taste overall. And on top of that, the P code has some good chips in it, but I just prefer other things on the whole. So now it's time to fight the V3 and get his V2 and 3 chip, but that's not it. Pharaoh Man is another NetNavi that has a secret 3rd battle chip in his V3 variant. Similarly to Muramasa with Shadow Man, you need to get an S rank to get it, though. With that said, it's easily the hardest of the 3 chips to get, I find. I usually have worse luck getting it. Here we got another Skutzer. I forget if this is actually the one I showed off earlier. This is the one that fires wood towers. I think this is the one we fought earlier. We're now doing this fight because it's time for us to get its battle chip, which is Life Aura. Life Aura is the best of the barrier type chips in the game because it requires 100 damage to even dissipate. But I don't think it dissipates over time like the Megalian auras do as battle chips from memory. So if you're going to use any of them, use the Life Aura line. It's absurd. With that said, again, not big on the defensive chips in the whole when it comes to auras and all that. Unless I'm using a shield style and I'll play through this. And now to round it off with the last 2 Pharaoh Man fights. Now, I'm not going to promise this because I haven't recorded any footage for the next part whatsoever, or beyond. But there is a chance that the next part is actively going to be the last one. Depending on how well chip grinds go and all that, timing-wise, of course. On top of what remains beyond the end of the World 3 area after that and how long that takes. So if the next part is titled Finale, don't be surprised, but don't completely expect it to be. That's the thing with doing these games the way I do them. I'm unsure of how things are going to go myself at this point. There's the final battle chip, Anubis. Spawns an Anubis in front of you that will quickly poison the enemy area and sap their HP like it's a poison panel. Mostly good for a program advance, admittedly, or a certain very defensive playstyle that I will use probably to get one battle chip from a particular fight. Behind this cube is a bug frag, but with that, I'm gonna need to end this off here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you so much for 380 subscribers. I know I'm getting these out late. I'm speeding through them to get as much done as I can. So hopefully I'll be caught up before the time we have another big celebration thing go on. And in part of 11 of Battle Network 2, probably the rest of the World 3 area at the least. See you guys then.